Welcome everyone. As we're coming in from around the world, you can go ahead and turn your camera on. I see Sabrina and Kathleen and Susanna and Swati and Evelyn and Zoe. As we come in, go ahead and just introduce yourself in the chat, just your name and your organization, just to get that, and where in the world you're at, so we can get a sense of this whole global spectrum that's here. I know some of you it's morning time, and other of you it's evening. So thanks everyone for joining. Raise your hand if you were with us last February when we came together around access to justice. Can you raise your hands? Great. So it's a reunion for some of us, and a warm welcome to everyone else to this State of Hope gathering by the elders and in partnership with Pathfinders. So what I'd like you all to do is, if you haven't, go ahead and change your name in the Zoom room. And if you could go ahead, if you feel comfortable putting your pronouns, that's very helpful. So we just get a sense of people's names and how they'd like to be addressed. That will be important. And a reminder that this meeting is going to be recorded. The entire meeting will be recorded. We won't be using any of the outtakes from the breakthrough groups. That's sort of for us, that's our working time where we roll up our sleeves and do our work. But the rest of it will be recorded. So it's being recorded now. There may be a button that pops up that you've already had to click. Please do if that's the case. So with that, I think we're up to 32 participants. Hello, Latino and Yasminka. Fantastic. And Maria Fernanda. Great. We're almost whole. I see Amani joining. What I'm going to do is, on the count of 3, have everyone give a big, you have to scroll across, maybe go into gallery mode, everyone. By the way, I'm Lisa Witter, your moderator or your DJ for today, as we talk about the state of hope and access to justice and partnering and collaboration. Go ahead for this part and put yourself in gallery view if you can. So you can see this wide range of people from around the world. Let's give each other a real wave. Go on camera and give each other a real hello, everyone. Hello. There we go. I'm going to the other screen. Hello, Jan Beagle and Alana. And I see Shalene. Hello, everyone. And the B team is here. Great. Ms. Robinson, I'm going to send it over to you for some welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and a really warm welcome to everyone for this State of Hope and this wonderful gathering. Together with our partners, Pathfinders, we've partnered together on justice in so many different ways. But today, it's about access to justice for women and girls and rule of law. And I hope that some of you have had a chance to look at our policy paper the elders have put out earlier this year on that subject. I want to acknowledge with heartfelt sadness that Graça Michel is not able to join us. Hina Jilani, my fellow elder, is with us. But Graça had hoped to be. She's very passionate about these issues, but she just could not make it. So she wants us to know that her heart is with us. She will look afterwards at our discussion and very warmly greets you all through me. And I believe we have to frame our discussion within the context of what's going on in Ukraine. It has been so horrifying to see a war in Europe in the 21st century. Yes, I know and acknowledge there have been wars elsewhere in the world and we haven't paid enough attention and we haven't cared enough. But the scenes in Ukraine and the scenes of people trying to leave Ukraine and so many women and children and deaths of women and children is an incredibly sad indictment. These elders have made 2 statements. We made a statement at the beginning saying, you know, this is so unjustified, unacceptable. And now this morning, we put out a statement on the nuclear, the fact that Putin has put his forces on some kind of nuclear alert is so bad for the world. And that so-called referendum in Belarus so that nuclear weapons can go on their territory is another step backwards. And remember that the P5 on the 3rd of January made an announcement that was in line with what Reagan and Gorbachev said, that a nuclear war can never be won and should never be fought. And we thought that we had made some light of progress in a world where we are tending to go backwards. And this nuclear alert is really very bad. So now, coming to our focus, the elders have made a significant number of commitments to the Generation Equality Forum, and we're going to hold to those commitments. And we want to have a really good conversation, and more importantly, take action on the kind of commitments. And let me just summarize briefly the commitments that the elders called on leaders to prioritize in access to justice and gender equality, to increase the number of women in leadership positions in the justice sector, to increase funding for legal empowerment and justice services that meet the needs of women, to address justice for survivors of gender-based violence with renewed vigor, to invest in quality data and an analysis on women's justice problems and experiences, and to invest in gender-just climate solutions. So these are the issues, and we've made more specific commitments in relation to the Gender Equality Forum's commitments itself. So this is going to be a wonderful conversation. When I look at the faces, I see a lovely intergenerational conversation, which the elders are very keen on. So back to you now, Lisa, for the introductions and on with the program.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you for bringing Gracia into the room. I can feel her and her presence, and for those notes on Ukraine, which I'm sure is heavy in all of our hearts, just as people in war are around the world, dealing with this day in and day out. Next, I'd like to invite Sarah Hussain. She's a lawyer at the Supreme Court of Bangladesh and an honorary executive director of the Bangladesh Legal Aid and Services Trust. And she's on the Pathfinders Task Force for Justice. She's going to give a few framing remarks on behalf of Pathfinders. So Sarah, over to you.
Thanks so much, Lisa. And thanks to the elders for convening this event. Thanks too to the elders, especially Mary Robinson, who's here, Hina Jilani, and Gracia Michelle, who can't be with us, for their ongoing leadership and commitment to the issue of access to justice for all, and particularly access to justice for women and girls. And this issue, as we all know, is really central to the achievement of the SDGs, particularly SDG 5 on gender equality and SDG 16 on peaceful and just societies and access to justice. And as Mary's just reminded us, this whole conversation is critical to what's happening today, and thinking about universal human rights and about the situation of people irrespective of their citizenship and in the context of conflict as well as peace. I'm really happy to welcome you all today on behalf of the Pathfinders. I was a member, as Lisa said, of the task force on justice, which Mary and Hina Jilani had led. And the task force and Pathfinders were looking at the issue of access to justice to focus on how to really concretely deliver fairness and justice in the lives of people, and especially women and girls. There's looking at resolving justice problems and also at prevention and preventing injustices from happening. And particularly examining how justice systems can be critical in creating opportunities for women and girls beyond the issue of dispute resolution and protection, to also include participation in society and in economy, and at every level, in families, workplaces, educational institutions, and so on. So today's meeting really gives us an opportunity to come together and build a strong and diverse community to make this kind of change happen. Some of the things we can look at that have already happened are the Justice for Women report, the commitments at the Generation Equality Forum as well. And we hope that today will give us a chance to prepare for the second SDG Summit, hopefully next year in 2023, and also to develop and maybe deepen the connections between all of us here as we take our own initiatives and ongoing work further and deeper. So look forward to today's conversation. Thanks again to the elders and to Pathfinders.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. And if you all can see in the chat, there are links to these reports. So if you haven't downloaded them, or if you still need these, please do click on that chat or cut and paste those. So I'm going to sort of step back to go forward a little bit and tell you what we're going to do today and give you some of the highlights. I'll just share my screen. Bear with me just for one moment. Here we go. Give you some highlights of the survey that many of you filled out, which we're very grateful for. So to start off, what we're going to do, we know that 2 hours of your time is really valuable. So we wanted to make this not just a time for people to come together, but to work together, to really partner and collaborate. So we're in this welcome and overview stage. Then we're going to turn it to all of you with very short introductions, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Then we're going to have, this whole thing is a state of hope, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into some speakers about what's giving them hope right now around the topic. Then my favorite part, which are the moderated, you'll note, breakthroughs. So instead of breakouts, around GEF commitments and collaboration and beyond. So you'll each be put into a breakthrough room with a moderator and some note takers to talk about where we can collaborate. Then we're going to talk about some highlights and high points for collaboration. Sarah was just talking about the next SDG summit. And then finally, picturing hope, inspiration, and a call to action. And we have a graphic recorder here recording the whole thing. We will send that back out to you. So I'll introduce Desiree at the end, who's here doing graphic recording. I want to just remind, this has been spoken about with Mary and with Sarah, but what we're really here to do is build this cross-sectoral community to advance access to justice, to really recognize progress. I know so many of you, I'm looking at Silvana and Sohini, and so many of you who work so hard in these GEF action coalitions to advance women's leadership across the board and gender equity. So to celebrate where we're at right now, even though there's so much work to do, and then to drive forward on some commitments to meaningful action. I'm going to share here, these are some of the responses. You can see we don't have a ton of responses, but I thought it might be indicative of this group. And if it's not, that's what we can talk about in our breakthrough groups. So we asked, did you or your organization make commitments? And 57% of you said yes. If yes, under which action coalitions? So not surprisingly, because of the intersections of the topic, more were in gender-based violence, but you can also see feminist movements and leadership, a critical force behind making anything happen for women and girls, as we know. What was the nature of commitment? So leadership was number one, followed by collaboration. And then you can see research, education, movement strengthening, and beyond. We can share this with you all as well. Would you like to be involved or informed about this second SDG summit? 100% said yes. Again, we'll talk about this more. And my absolute favorite question is, have you recently stopped to appreciate all your hard work and commitment to gender equality and justice? And all of you had. So I hope you're taking good care of yourself as we do this work together. When we asked what specific help was needed, you'll see everything ranging from help engaging civil society, research and data, spotlighting the momentum, the importance of access to justice, some particular knowledge about things like alternative dispute resolutions, because it's more people-centered and less costly, so more innovations. This next one is so critical to talk about, how to be a human rights activist and be safeguarded while that's happening. The global attention on gender equality and violence against women and girls. I know so many on this call work on that day in and day out. And then finally, funding and partnership about transformative women's leadership. So a lot of the driver behind all of that. So I wanted to share that with you all to see the setting which we're going in. And now we're going to ask three poll questions to see where folks are at. So let's go with the first poll question. Pippa, there's lots of people behind the scenes making this work. Pippa is one of them, not just a tech person. So thanks, Pippa, for that. Okay, poll number one. This is a personal question. So overall, how are you right now? Excellent, more energetic than ever. Good, it's been a tough couple of years, but I'm strong. Not great, I'm tired and frustrated. Pretty terrible, I need a break. I feel all of the above at different times each day. We really wanted to start off with you. We can't make change unless we take care of ourselves first. We'll wait a minute for everyone to answer. Okay. Great. Pippa, go ahead and let's see where people are at. Share the results. So you can see here, most of us are good. So 60 for 59%. It's been a tough couple of years, but I'm strong and ready. Not surprised by this group. But I just want to recognize there are some people who, at least one person feels pretty terrible. And many of you, 20%, feel all of the above at different times each day. Great, thanks for sharing that. Next, we're going to go into the global goals question. So this will be cut in two questions. So which global goals you're working on? So question number one goes through, I think, the first 10. You can choose many as apply. If I was a betting woman, I would guess gender equality will come up pretty high, but I know there's lots of other intersections here. Great. Okay, a few more seconds. Mary, you don't see the poll. Click on the bottom row, polls and quizzes. It should pop up again. And warm welcome, Mary. Hello, Mary Ellsberg. Okay, Pippa, should we call it? Oh, sorry, Susanna. When people don't see the polls on the bottom bar, there should be a polls and quizzes. You just can click it again. But I will just read it out if you want to add. So which SDGs are you working on? So the number one, 96% on gender equality, followed by 70% reduced inequality. Obviously, those things are connected, followed by 30% decent work and economic growth. And then a few education, health, poverty, clean water and sanitation, and affordable energy. But obviously gender equality was number one and reduced inequality was second. Let's go to our second poll question. Hopefully Mary Ellsberg and Susanna, you can see this one as well. There we go, poll number 3. So if you can't see the poll, you can just write in the chat which ones you're working on. Sustainable cities, responsible consumption and production. I'm sure you all have these memorized by now, right? I see Mary Robinson has the wheel on her jacket. I'm sure we're all memorizing the global goals, that beautiful wheel. I'm seeing a lot of peace and justice and strong institutions. Makes sense when we're talking about access to justice. Okay, Pippo, when you're ready. Okay, so not surprisingly, so we have one, gender and then gender equality, and then the second is peace, justice, and strong institutions, followed by partnerships, which is great. That's what we're here to be talking about. And then I know something close to Mary Robinson, but many of you, climate action, and then sustainable cities and communities. Okay, fantastic. So thanks everyone. That was helpful for us to get a sense of where is everyone at. Now I want to turn to you all. So what I'd like you to do is go back into gallery view if you're not, because this is the time that we're going to briefly get a giant mood board around where you're at and what gives you hope. So what I'll ask is each person to briefly say your name and your organization, just that, and in a word, what gives you hope. And I'm going to do my best to follow the screen around here. So I'm going to start with, let me see here. I'll start with Atino. Did I pronounce it correctly? Your first name, last name, and what gives your organization, what gives you hope?
All right, my name is Atieno Odhiambo. I'm with the Legal Empowerment Fund, which is a program of the Fund for Global Human Rights. And what gives me hope is self-care. Self-care, fantastic. Self-care. Mary Ellsberg, who's probably knitting right now. Mary, are you knitting? No, not today. She usually is, keeping it real.
Of course
there
I'm
you
knitting.
go. I know, you're knitting. That's your self-care.
Mary Ellsberg from the Global Women's Institute. What gives me hope is feminist organizing.
Great. Feminist organizing gives you hope. I saw some heads nodding there. If the poll is still up, if you click on the red X at the corner, it should go away. Jan Beagle, over to you. Hi, Jan.
Hi, from IDLO. I think the increasing number of feminist foreign policies gives me hope.
Great. I live in Germany. We just announced ours. Very good. Thanks, Jan. Charlene, hello.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Hi, I'm Shalene Curtis McCullough. I'm with Justice Canada. What gives me hope is perseverance and resilience.
Fantastic. Great. Desiree.
Hi, What gives me hope is illustrating the vision of the future with everyone.
As you're doing right now. Fantastic. Eveline or Eveline, you can correct me.
Evelyn, thank you. Yeah, my name is Evelien de Bruin. I'm with the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And what gives me hope is unity amongst people.
Yeah, unity. Yeah, boy, what a time for that. Alison, Maynard, Gibson, QC, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope is innovation.
Innovation. Great. We're going to hear more about that. She's giving a little state of hope talk. Kathleen. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm off. What gives me hope is all of you. It's so wonderful to be such part of such a wonderful community.
Glad to have you, Kathleen. Maria Fernanda. Hola.
Hola. Va a hablar mi intérprete. Yo me voy a silenciar para que puedan entender.
What gives me hope is this space of women, committed to safety, security, peace, and justice.
Great. And a shout out to those of you who are doing this in a second or third language. Big respect. Great. Habak, good morning or evening.
What gives me hope is the determination, the resilience, and the resistance of women in Yemen, in Syria, in Somalia, in Ukraine. That gives me hope.
Thank you. Sohini.
What gives me hope is young people, their ability to transform themselves and transform others.
Great. We have many on this call today, and I know that's a really important voice we're going to be hearing from. Denise.
Hello, I'm Denise from Brazil with Themis Gender Justice and Human Rights. What gives me hope is the alliance between diverse feminist experiences and intergenerational experiences.
Thank you, Denise. Hina.
What gives me hope is that everyone that I worked with and have continued to work with are themselves so hopeful. So that's where my hope comes from.
And you'll be hearing more from Denise and Hina and Habak on hope. Next, coming up, Swati. Hello.
Hi, Swati Mehta from Pathfinders. What gives me hope is people-to-people relations and connect.
Even over Zoom, right? Even over Zoom, we can do that. Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise from the Elders, and what gives me hope is collaboration between people to achieve great things.
Great, thanks, Louise. Claire.
Hi, I'm Claire Island. I've just joined the Elder Secretariat. What gives me hope is schools. I've got 3 young children. They're all coming home asking questions about gender equality and SDGs, and it's really giving me hope that that next generation is asking the right questions.
Great. Mushfiq, I think the only gentleman we have on the call, so warm welcome to you, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm Mushfiq from the Elders, and my word is Ubuntu, a Southern African Bantu word that stands for the universal bond that connects all of humanity. Thanks.
Thanks, Mushfiq. Sarah, do you have a word?
Yeah, colleagues, and I think also elders, because if they survive things, I think we can survive them too.
Great. Maike.
Hi, my name is Maike de Lange. I'm with the Pathfinders. And I was also going to say people, it's been said a lot, but I think if you look at what people can do individually, if they believe in good things, and collectively, it's just amazing. So that gives me hope.
Great. Alyssa.
Hi, all. Alisa Jimenez, Pathfinders. My word is connection.
Great. Laura.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm Laura from the Elders Secretariat. Thanks to everyone who's been emailing, myself and Mushfiq. What gives me hope? The way different movements are slowly starting to come together, stepping out of silos and working together, and hopefully more of that.
Great, thank you. Mary, do you have one word that really sticks out to you?
I have to make it two words.
Okay, good.
As chair of the Elders, feminist justice, which I think more and more is bringing us together, because feminist is problem solving, taking direct decisions, collaborating, listening, all the things, and enjoying working with others and listening and learning from others.
Feminist justice and maybe feminist joy as we do the work.
Indeed.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes, I like the word joy.
Speaking of joy, there's my friend Sabrina, who is feminist joy embodied. Sabrina, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sabrina, and today having the hat of Women Beyond Walls, but still have the Elders very close to my heart. I think what's really given me hope, particularly this year, is seeing such a diverse group of women, from lawyers to formerly incarcerated women to academics, coming together to really push for justice for women on the margins, such as incarcerated women.
Thanks, Sabrina. Callie, hello.
Hi, I'm Callie from the B team. Great to see you all. I'm given hope by everybody on this line and everything that's been said, and a word would just be collaboration. So thanks.
Thank you. Yasminka, hello.
Hi, everyone. Well, what gives me hope is actually the colleagues, partners, you and the community that is fighting for the access to justice for women.
Thanks, Yasminka. Susanna.
Hi, all. So what gives me hope, I mean, a lot of things that people said, but what gives me hope in the moment is self-led movements, cross-movement collaboration, and platforms for those movements to speak. I don't know how many of you saw John Oliver's fabulous piece about sex worker rights, but things like that and highlighting the work of self-led movements, that gives me hope.
Thanks, Susanna. And if you have the energy to put that link in the chat, I think it's great to use this community to share. Thank you. Ileana, Jennifer, Agnes, and Amani, if you could turn your video on, we'd love to see you to hear this. Ileana, over to you. Introduce yourself and your one word of hope.
Give me 1 second. I look crazy. So hi, guys. Ileana with the Connecticut Justice Alliance. And my one word would be collaboration.
You don't look crazy, you look present. Really nice to have you in this collaborative mode. Amani, I think, has her seatbelt on, which is a good sign for safety. Amani, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to see you all. I'm Amani Aruri from Palestine. I'm representing Karama and the Youth Task Force, also together with Hibak. What gives me hope, many things, but mostly solidarity and the intergenerational movement.
Fantastic, thank you. Agnes, hello. I think from Uganda, correct, Agnes?
Yes, hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Amadi Agnes Cynthia from Uganda. What gives me hope is humanness and feminism. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great, we'll hear more from you coming up. Jennifer, hello. Rodriguez.
Greetings, I'm Jenny from Men Engage Alliance, and what brings me hope is women, human rights, and environmental defenders on the front lines. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jennifer. And I just see it in the chat. Congratulations to Ileana for being a newly announced Young Justice Leader. So thank you very much. And I think last but not least, and Cynthia as well. So congratulations to you and thanks for your service to justice. Amani, can we hear from you and see you? I'll give you 1 second. Okay, maybe she's having technical difficulties. So what we're all going to do is turn on your screen right now. We're going to do a screenshot of everyone smiling at each other if we can. This is for history. Kathleen and Evelyn, and great, super. So over to the team of the Elders to smile for the camera, everyone. Smile for justice. Like that photo booth, you know, where you sit in the old-fashioned photo booth. Laura, give me the thumbs up when we're good. Double thumbs up. Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for doing that so efficiently. We thought it was really important in organizing this meeting that we got to hear from everyone about what gives them hope. And now we're going to go into a bit deeper. The elders have a series called State of Hope, and they put gatherings together. So this is themed around the state of hope, but specifically around access to justice. So we have short presentations, 3-minute presentations by several of our colleagues, of our sisters on this call. They were asked in 3 minutes to, in a word, followed by an explanation or a story, what gives them hope, specifically at the intersections of gender justice and from where you sit. So geography or how you see the world. So Hina, as one of our elders, over to you to start.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think, first of all, let me say how excited I am to be sitting amongst this gathering and to be able to see some of my old friends who I've missed for a long time, Sarah and Mike and Susanna, so many others who are sitting today, and Sabrina, of course, my dearest Sabrina, who has been such a good partner for me in this journey through the elders in this area of access to justice. I think I would respond to your question by saying that from my experience of 40 years of working in this particular area, I see no reason to be without hope. We marked the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action in 2020, and through the Generation Equality Forum in 2021. In this whole period that we have come forward, we have seen that women not only create an agenda for themselves, they achieve those goals. I'm not at all unhappy with where we are today, because when I look back, I see the dismal position from where we've come forward. And for me, that is the reason why I have the energy still, although I'm nearing 70 years of age, I still feel young enough to go much further than I have in this field. What I feel now is the biggest challenge for us is not just to create forums and create laws that give us the stepping stone into the world of access to justice, but now to see that the whole concept of access to justice expands to social justice. And that is what I understand from what Sarah said in the beginning about creating communities where people have access to social justice. And that social justice is as important as legal justice. We as human rights defenders are not just lawyers, we are social activists in many ways. Of course, we always have to choose the forum. We have to choose between the courts and the streets. And we've been there. We've been in both the streets and the courts and won many victories. The challenge for us now also is to make sure that the mechanisms that we have been able to create start functioning and functioning in a manner in which these mechanisms are able to deliver what people expect of these mechanisms. So I think that's where my focus now is, especially in my country and with the colleagues in my region where situations and conditions are similar. We are all concentrating on making sure that what we've achieved now is sustainable and able to grow into a strong and accepted way of life where access to justice doesn't have a question mark, but is something that is normal and achievable.
Thank you, Hina. I think that you summed it up so well. This isn't moving from a thing to need to just normal and achievable. And thanks for talking about your hope through your years, all of your energy. I want to bottle it up into the world. So thanks, Hina. We're going to move from Hina over to Denise Dora. She's the co-founder and the board member of feminist, Gender Justice and Human Rights, and the regional director of Article 19 Brazil. So Denise, over to you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Hina. You are always inspiration for us. I cannot not say that I was a student in Essex when I went to London to watch you with Sarah in a conference. It has changed my life forever. And it's an honor to be here. And this gives me hope. But last Monday, the Colombian Constitutional Court approved the decriminalization of abortion in Colombia. It was a big fight for at least 3 generations of women's rights activists. The ones who were building the UN conference and the human rights grammar into women's rights in Vienna 93, Beijing 95, in Durban 2001. And this generation also helped to bring these international standards into national legislation at different countries in Latin America in general, but specifically talking about Colombia at this moment. And it has helped the new generation of women's rights activists to build new legal communities, to influence national legislation, to change laws, to start working to mobilize based on legal empowerment and methodologies, a diverse movement that ended in a big victory, not only for the Colombian women, but for all of us in Latin America. So I see that we have hope because more than ever, the global feminist movement is diverse. It's diverse between generations. It's diverse with racial and ethnic experience with rural and urban women. So it's a combination of thousands of pieces of different experiences that come together and build common strategies. So I think we are able to get victories at national level because we are globally connected, because we go and come back from our own village to the global forums and discuss this. So this is new windows that are opened for us in the region. I can talk about the Argentinian experience, the women from Uruguay. At this moment, we Brazilians are battle against Bolsonaro and his fascist team, who are trying to, destroy the gender equity, but we are part of a global movement, and this is what gives us hope, strength, and we are proud of it.
Thanks, Denise. What an appropriate comment for this group of folks who will be on this call and then go back to their villages and their cities and then come back together, whether on Zoom or in person. So thank you for that call and for starting off with something that we won in Colombia, imagine the work. So thanks to Mushfiq for putting that article in there. So thanks again, Denise, for that. Now we're gonna move from Brazil over to Uganda. Amani, Agnes, Cynthia, hello. We'd love this intergenerational approach from Hina talking about being 70 and having energy to, I know we're all behind the young energy behind us. So over to you and what gives you hope.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Amani Agnes Cynthia, and I am from Uganda. I'm one of the next generation fellows at the United Nations Foundation, and I was newly selected as a young justice leader at Pathfinders. I am very, very happy to be part of this great forum of great women. It makes my heart so full because I'm so inspired about women coming together. This is not the norm that in many societies, like where I stay, where there is the patriarchy system, it is always women being set against each other. So I'm always very hopeful when I see women coming together to talk about very many aspects that affect them directly. And also what gives me hope is the fact that there are legal frameworks that are not only being in paperwork, but also transformed to a people-centered justice in the form of social justice and legal aid. Because for example, in the context of Uganda, the legal services are very expensive for the indigent persons. But when I see organizations coming up and offering free legal services to the women, to the children who are the most oppressed in the country like Uganda, whereby a system like patriarchy, first of all, it does not permit, for example, a girl or a woman to even inherit property. And for the mediations that have always conducted in the activities that I've done with different organizations, you find that a person comes for mediation and tells you, I was not in position to give so-and-so their share after the death of their parents, simply because they're women, and someone is reasoning like that. It is very disheartening. It breaks my heart always. But when I see that these indigent persons, they're helpless, they cannot afford the legal services, because that is something like a luxury to a person who is poor and they cannot afford even the basic needs. So them attaining a lawyer to fight for their rights is something that they cannot think about. But when these organizations are coming up with legal aid, offering the services free to them, that really gives me hope. And I know that the women from even the grassroots are going to attain the gender equality, are going to attain the justice, and they are going to be aware of what their rights are, because these organizations are always going out to them, teaching them the law, because not all of them have gone to school. And yet to know the law, you must be someone who is at least literate, you've gone to school, but many of them haven't. However, when I see organizations going to interact with these women, teaching them what the laws are, them knowing what their rights are, and being in position to claim for them, that really gives me hope, especially me who has grown up in a community that is highly patriarchy. It gives me a lot of hope. Yes, thank you.
Well, I think I can easily say for all of us that you give us hope, your passion and your hard work. So thank you for that perspective from where you are in Uganda and where you live and the levels of patriarchy. And I think you have tons of energy, and congratulations again on the latest announcement. Thank you so much. We're going to move from Uganda over to Egypt, to a woman that's given me hope for, I think, 20 years, often working with women in war. How unfortunately timely. Oh, I see that we have. Oh no, we're not gonna go over to Habak. We're gonna go over. No, I see spotlight changing. Anyway, we're gonna go over to Habak Osman. She's the founder and CEO of El Karama. So if we can spotlight her, that would be fantastic, Habak.
Well, thank you very much. Of course, it gives me hope to see Honorable Hina Jilani sitting here as determined as the day I met her 100 years ago. That gives me hope. And I'm absolutely grateful that I'm here today to be in the same place with her. The word that gives me hope is determination. In last year's elections, for example, in Morocco, professional legal chambers, 25% of candidates were women. In 2015, just 5% of candidates were women in Morocco. If we want to improve women's access to justice and ensure a justice sector that's more responsive to women's needs and experience, overall, those sectors must look like the society that they serve. The determination of Moroccan women in the legal sector and in the broader women's movements have been demonstrable example or legacy. In 2004, activists succeeded in the revision of Moroccan family law abolishing many forms of institutional discrimination, such as the requirement for women to have consent from their guardian in order to marry. But their activism has stopped there. They are demanding further revisions, such as ensuring there can be no no underage marriage, and marriage should be at the age of 18, and abolishing articles that mean divorced mothers relinquish custody rights if they marry. Morocco women churches have absolutely central to the campaigns for legal reform and for women's access to justice. The determination of Moroccan women lawyers and activists to improve the rights and access to justice for women in Morocco is an inspiration. It's a great privilege for me and Karama to work with these women and provide them an opportunity to learn and to exchange their experience with activists across Africa, the Arab region, and the world. The determination of the Libyan women who are in the worst conditions, trying to influence the political process that's going on. And it was their determination that pushed to have the first Arab woman foreign minister in Libya, of all places, who then announced after a couple of months that feminist foreign policy was very important and central. Can you imagine? Even America did not do that. That gives me hope that the Yemeni women who were, when it was raining bullets and artilleries, were able to bring 60 organizations so that they can write for the first time in 12 years the CEDAW report. That gives me incredible hope. The Somali women who are basically, the core of the society and the backbone, who basically are carrying the country, the Somaliland that's not even recognized. There is so much, there is no reason to be miserable. It's as long as we have determination and we know where we are heading and we realize our power as women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haba, for your passion. And what an important point to start off with is the politics, the movement of women into these positions of political power and how important they are and how quickly things had changed. Thank you for your life's commitment and your own determination. I see it, you're in and you're out. Last but not least in this section is Alison, Maynard, Gibson, QC. We're moving from Egypt all the way over to the Bahamas. Your background is beautiful. We feel like we're there with you. She's the former Attorney General and Minister for Legal Affairs of the Bahamas. So over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here this morning, and I'm grateful to the elders and Pathfinders for convening this event. And I thank them for their assiduous focus on gender equity across generations. I say hello to my friends from the Task Force for Justice. My hope word is innovation. This week in Nassau, my home, the Bahamas, I spoke with students pursuing their bar finals. And I left that encounter energized and filled with hope. These soon-to-be lawyers genuinely understood and they were concerned to address access to justice. I was hopeful for several reasons. First, they're young. Secondly, they understood the intersection of gender and access to justice. And thirdly, and this is important for lawyers, they understood that there's a business case to operate in the people-centered or access to justice space. They understood that. This isn't surprising, really, because young people have often been at the forefront of fighting for access to justice and people-centered justice, especially in the gender space. So while we celebrate how far we've come, we have to acknowledge that we do have a long way to go. The Secretary General's new common agenda and new initiatives such as the Pathfinders Young Justice Leaders, some of whom we've already met here today, recognize that youth are our hope. Youth innovate to find solutions. As I saw this group of students, the bar finalists, and have been a part of in the Bahamas and on the Task Force of Justice, there's a vision of justice taking hold. One that puts people and resolving their problems as a central focus. And there's recognition that too often people don't regard the formal system as serving their needs. For example, worldwide research shows that only 7% use a court or some other form of tribunal, only 7%. A people-centered focus is especially impactful for women and children. Many of the students love the idea of giving people free access to information about the law and their rights. They recognize that a well-informed client is as important to a lawyer as a well-informed patient is to a doctor. And I'm hopeful because our youth are aware of the intersectionality between gender and access to justice. The IMF has given estimates that in 41 countries, if we close gender gaps in paid work, that would generate at least 15% gain in national income. So the young people were keen to explore the idea of innovating by implementing one-stop shops, combining formal and informal justice to address the whole person. There's a different concept of what a law firm could look like. And family law is ideally suited to this. So imagine a one-stop shop law firm that uses in-person presentations or advice and technology, combines services, including legal advice, family and financial counseling, social workers to provide advice, including on state-sponsored services, and childcare to people who visit the center, and informal means by which there can be binding resolution of disputes and other examples in one spot. These are services required in family law, obviously, and also it can apply, this model can apply to other areas of the law as well, employment law, matters relating to property and so forth. So they understood that there is a business case to provide them affordably in one place. Innovate to provide people with interconnected solutions to interconnected problems. So I'm hopeful that the elders, young justice leaders, the push for data-driven decisions, the focus on gender, the common agenda, and all of these issues presents us with an opportune moment for real change. Change that involves innovation to find new people-centered solutions for justice problems, leading to justice for all.
Fantastic. Innovation, from determination to innovation. Thank you so much. So many really concrete ideas and hopefulness around a new generation thinking differently, how to put really people at the center. So thank you so much for that. So we've heard from every one of you on different words and different things that are bringing hope. Thanks to everyone who's putting ideas in the chat. Remember, one of the objectives is to build this global community. As Denise said, we come together globally and we go back to our homes sharing those ideas. So now what I want to do is be kind. In Feminist Joy also is Feminist Rest. And we promised you a break. We're going to break a little bit early whenever does that happen in the meeting. And we will come back at 5 minutes past the hour where we'll go into those breakout groups. So you have 10 minutes, take care of yourself, get a drink of water, maybe write something in the chat, and we will see you back at 5 after the hour, wherever you're at. So thank you to all of our speakers so much, and everybody come back so we can get to work. Laura. Great. So welcome back, everyone. I hope you stretched, moved your body, did what you needed to do to get ready to roll up your sleeves. So this next about a half an hour or so is really about the collaboration part of the work. We surveyed you all at the beginning to get a sense of what people were working on, where their commitments were made. We saw some of those trends. If we didn't hear from you in that survey, now's the time to share in your groups. We have great facilitators lined up who know exactly who they are and what they're doing. Shortly, Pippa the Great is going to move us all into our breakout groups. In there, there's 2 questions that you will be answering, which are, I just put in the chat. I'm not going to read it because you're going to be able to have a discussion about that. It's basically, what are you working on? What do you need help on? And what can we do together in a shortcut sort of way? I'm going to put into the chat now a notes taking Google doc that if you can get into to make some notes, there'll be a note taker for each group, but you're welcome to sort of be poking in there and taking a look at that as well. And there will be 5-minute warning and a 1-minute warning. So all you have to do is go in there and follow the lead of your facilitator, and then we'll bring everyone back. So with that, I'll go ahead and put the notes in there. If you can click on that. Pippa, take us away. And many thanks to Claire and Mary and Alyssa and Maike, and I'm missing one facilitator. You know who you're at. Who you are for doing this. So over to you. Oh, myself. I forgot myself. Yeah, it's me. Great. Looking forward to talking soon. Welcome back, everyone. We won't be doing welcome back. Here they come. I mostly see smiling faces. Yes, lots of smiling faces. Some hand wringing I saw. I'm not sure what that's about.
We got zoomed away from our group. We were zoomed away.
Oh, right mid-sentence, right?
Mid-sentence. I was just going to say it, Lisa.
Oh, fantastic. Well, welcome back, everyone. In the last about 20 minutes here, thanks to everyone. Just warming up, Sohini says. Oh, no, but that's a good place to jump off of. This isn't a normal meeting where there are report backs. Because the report backs will do in the notes. Don't worry if you're looking in the notes. If they look ugly, we will fix them all up and make them pretty and grab those. But thanks everyone. My group was great, interesting perspectives from GBV to lots of access to justice, really, really concrete ideas. So we're hoping more came out that we can share. So with that, I'll turn it over to Maike, who's going to talk about some high points for mobilization coming up. So how to take all these ideas and put them into action. So Maike, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm still recovering from being cut off mid-sentence in my group, but we had a very good discussion, which ties, I think, very much into the spirit of this meeting and some of the broader things that I've heard today, which do give me hope, give all of us hope, and I think can provide a foundation for us to keep working on this important issue of justice for women. We've been working very much on a people-centered approach, putting people at the center of justice is our framing, and we really mean justice with a very big J. So it's not about the buildings, the systems, the procedures. That's partly what our conversation in the group was about, but it's really about that value of justice, the fairness in people's lives, the ability of people and women in particular to stand up for what's right and to participate fully. Hina Jilani said it beautifully at the beginning. It's not about the legal justice; it's about social justice and what we want in our societies. With Pathfinders, we've been working on SDG 16 and this understanding of access to justice, which we've really broadened to this notion of justice for all, which is so much beyond that narrow notion of access to the formal justice system and the lawyers and the courts. And at least 50%, but probably a lot more of our work has been on justice for women, because of course that is, you cannot have justice for all without justice for women. But also because systems and procedures as we know them do not sufficiently take into account women's needs and possibilities and how they are structured, how the system is designed, how courts operate, but also how laws are implemented and made and beyond. Also because we feel that the justice problems that women face are not sufficiently known and understood and prioritized. So really, understanding those justice problems in all their dimensions and then having a broader sense of how these can be resolved and prevented is critical. Also because women are the most amazing justice leaders. We announced the young justice leaders just last week, and we have 2 here, but also of course the elders have been such amazing leaders for justice over the past years, and this approach is much more holistic. So I think I want to say 2 other things in terms of what we are trying to do with this meeting as we move forward. We've heard a lot about connection, and one of the things I think we're trying to do is to connect the efforts that people who have been closely engaged with the Generation Equality Forum and the commitments and the action groups two things that are happening in the context of the SDGs and the achievement of SDG 16 and SDG 5, and really building networks for change across those different sectors, bringing together experiences, focusing on shared goals, because I think those goals are broadly shared, and there's different networks at the global level, regional level, national level. We all operate in many of these networks, but the more we can bring in diverse voices, diverse experiences, the stronger I think we will all be together. And again, this is very much about changing the way we think about what justice is and what justice systems should be providing, and how we can take action on justice for women and girls. And an important component that I just want to put out on that in connecting these efforts is also the funding. And we've heard mentioned briefly the Legal Empowerment Fund. And so Atieno Odiambo, who is here, is leading that Legal Empowerment Fund, which is an amazing new initiative to really get funding to grassroots justice activists, many of whom are women and are working for justice for women. So very briefly, some opportunities around the SDGs, because that's the context I think that will provide a lot of opportunities at the global level. So the SDGs, of course, is a framework for the world we want, and we can build this world together. And it's set on a road to 2030. So they were agreed in 2015 with the time frame of 2030, which means that we are more or less at the halfway point. If you do the exact math, it's not exactly next year, but there will be the second SDG summit taking place in September. So that's a very important moment, I think, for world leaders to come together around those goals of access, universal access to justice, and achieving SDG 5. And it's a moment where I think we can also take stock of where we have come over the past years and how we have moved the conversation forward, built the networks, improved the data we have on justice systems and how they operate, improve the understanding of gender equality and what is still to be done, what the achievements are on the one hand, but also all the work that is still ahead of us. So just to put that moment on your calendar, there are two high-level political forums in the context of the UN before that. So there's a high-level political forum in 2022, and then there's a high-level political forum in 2023, which are stepping stones to that moment of the SDG summit. And I think as a community, as people here on this call, if we can connect and join efforts and support each other's voices, we are in a good position to really claim some of that space at that global level and that conversation around these issues. Three concrete things that we will be working on from Pathfinders. We are very much open to all of you to collaborate on. One is the Justice Action Coalition. And so Evelien de Bruin, who is from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands, is also on this call. We're working very closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to develop the Justice Action Coalition, which is a group of countries who have endorsed the principles of people-centered justice and are hopefully becoming that political vehicle for speaking out, getting countries both domestically and internationally to invest more, to work more on these issues, and justice for women and opportunities for women are a critical component of all that work. We're also working around a number of reports and data collection efforts around justice for women that will sort of be building blocks as we go into 2023. From the survey, I was very pleased to see that both Justice Canada has presented their, well, I knew it, but it was brought up there as well, the legal problem survey. So, increased data on really what the issues are that women and people more generally are facing and whether the justice system is resolving them. A lot of countries are investing in these types of surveys, better understanding to influence policy making and implementation. And also SM from Macedonia mentioned data collection efforts and forthcoming reports. So there was a question in that survey, but please feel free, if you are working on relevant data collection efforts that you think can help us make the case globally, or you just want to share your work, do reach out. There's going to be opportunities around that. And then mobilization more generally, I'll come back to that at the very end. Another moment on the calendar I just want to put on your radar is the World Justice Forum. that is taking place in The Hague from 31 May to 4th of June. And it will be a big moment for the justice community to come together, building on the work that has been done with this broad partnership, a broad group of partners, including on justice for women and some of the partners we've been working with there. So I keep saying in every meeting where I get the chance that that's really the place to be. So if you are able to join in person, please do. Love to see you all there as much as I think we're having a great Zoom meeting. There's nothing like being in the same room together physically. So please, World Justice Forum, put that on your calendar and see if you can find a way to join. And just the last point is that we will continue to organize as Pathfinders with our many partners. Our partnership with the elders has really meant so much for this work over the years, and we hope to continue to work together in this area. And there's two specific initiatives. The Young Justice Leaders was mentioned. I just want to reiterate that we're very happy to have Cynthia and Ileana here. There's a few other Young Justice Leaders, and we will be working closely with them to have the voice of young people and leaders, because they already are leaders in their own countries and contexts. Bring that to the global stage as we discuss the way forward. And a more specific initiative in this lead up to the SDG summit, we will be organizing quarterly calls, which is really a moment for people who are partners and people working on these issues to come together, exchange, align efforts, know what's happening, find people to invite to your meeting, make those connections across regions, across sectors, have very informal and open discussions. And connecting those worlds, the people working on access to justice and justice for all, and the people working on SDG 5. I think this meeting is a great point of connection, but we need many more. So those quarterly calls, the first one will take place on March 25th, which is in 3.5 weeks roughly. And if you are interested in joining, please do reach out. We'd be happy to have you on them. So from the very broad to something very specific, I think we have a lot of work to do together, and I look forward to working with you in the coming month. Back over to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Mike. I know in our breakout, we talked about that triad between justice, prevention, and healing. And I imagine in each of these conversations, there's space because we have people from all walks of that on there. So thanks for those very concrete things that we can do. So as we go into our last 9 minutes all together, I'm going to turn it over to Desiree, who we asked her to picture hope. So she's been listening and doodling like she does so well, and she's going to pull up a live doodle that she's been doing of our conversation. We can't do this work without the head and heart working together. So Desiree, over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. So here's a quick visual journey of today's session. We started with the opening statements on taking action on our commitments, urging leaders to prioritize access to justice and gender equality, and the importance of making sure that mechanisms will function and deliver, making sure that our achievements are sustainable, a way of life where justice is normal and achievable. And what gives you hope? We heard from everyone, and these are some of the responses. Access to legal services for women and children, abolishing discriminatory laws, political leadership of women, pushing for data-driven decisions, feminist justice and joy, determination, diversity, youth, connection and community, asking the right questions, innovation, and cross-movement collaboration. And over to the breakout discussion, which will improve after the meeting. Some of the needs include have sufficient resources, breaking down biases, political will, how do we bring data to life, investment in frontline justice workers, technologies and connecting women. And some of the opportunities for collaboration include broadening networks, spaces for dialogue, sharing our experience, successes, and scale, collective action for data and evidence, and empowerment of leaders. And in our last part, it was about focusing on shared goals, taking stock, and supporting each other's voices. Thanks everyone for letting us draw the big picture with all of you. Back to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Desiree. And as just beautiful work as always, Desiree. It's so fun, the great reveal. And I know you're going to go in and add some things and tweak some things. And we will make sure we share this with all of you. So thank you so much. We have one final poll question before we end with a poem and some words by Mary Robinson and a tweet. So Pippa, why don't you put up question number 5 for our colleagues here. So here we are at nearly the end of our 2 hours together. How would you characterize your personal state of hope right now? Couldn't be higher, boosted since I joined. Boy, that word boost has taken on, at least in English, a whole nother meaning. About the same, I'm really not hopeful. This is anonymous, so you can be honest to how you're feeling right now. Go ahead and let's see where we're at. I definitely heard in my breakout, we've been having the same conversation for years and years and years. So I understand that's real. Some folks. Okay, Pippa, let's call it. So at least one of us needs a really long hug, not that hopeful, you don't need to reveal yourself, but most of us feel boosted, which is great. At a minimum, that's what we wanted to do in the backdrop of how Mary and Sarah set it off, where we're at in the world right now. It couldn't be higher, fantastic. We've over boosted someone, fantastic, and then about the same. So thanks for being that so honest, and we're glad for those of you who feel boosted. And hopefully to give you a little last boost, a couple words, a little bit of poetry from my friend and someone I really admire in the GBV space and the gender equality space, Sohini from Breakthrough India. Sohini, over to you.
Hi, and thanks. It was a fabulous discussion. Thank you for this opportunity. The following is a poem by someone called Dr. Nabonita Debshen, who remains one of the most beloved, versatile, and prolific Bengali writers of all in India. She's equally expressive in poetry and prose, humor and history, fiction and nonfiction. And she lived a parallel life as a highly acclaimed international scholar and a fierce feminist. It's a poem written in Bengali language and has been translated into English by her daughter, who's a writer, an actor, and a child rights activist, child protection ambassador for Save the Children India. The poem is from a collection called Acrobat. It's called That Girl. Sorrow had chased her. The girl kept running and running. What else could she do? She hurled the comb in her hand at sorrow, and instantly from the comb's 100 teeth sprouted thousands of trees, a deep forest swarming with wild animals. And somewhere among the growls of tigers in that haunted darkness, sorrow got lost. Fear had chased her. The girl kept running and running. What could she do? She threw her tiny bottle of perfume at fear, and instantly the perfume swelled into a foaming, whirling cycle. With a deafening roar, the fierce saffron tide flooded mile after mile, sweeping away fear. The day love chased her, the girl had nothing in her hand. She kept running and running. What could she do? She gouged her heart out from her breast and flung it at love. And instantly, that fistful of hearts sprang up into a range of green mountains with cascades and caves, canyons and crests, mystery reverberating in its gorges and its valleys, the shivering echo of stormy winds, the rush of waterfalls, its slopes full of shade and its peak burnt by the sun and the moon. Perhaps it was that dazzling, brimful heart that didn't allow her lover's timid love to advance and grow. She's chased now by exhaustion, empty-handed, empty-hearted. She keeps running and running. What can she do? The girl tosses behind her only a sigh, and instantly the flame of her breath sets fire to her entire past, spreading in every direction, a desert of burning, churning sands. Now the girl runs without a care, both arms held high above her head. At last she's chased only by her destination. Thank you all.
Go, Sohini, so beautiful, beautiful. I feel like running with my hands above my hair. We'll all have to make a commitment to do that. Thank you. And I hope you will share that poem. Maybe we can share it with everyone. In the year of the tiger, you were talking about tigers. It's the year of the tiger for all of us inside. So the last two big things, Mary, over to you for some final words, and you'll kick it to me for a call to action on social media. And everyone stay on to the end because we're going to do one more wave to each other. So Mary, over to you.
Okay, well, I'm so glad that this conversation has taken place in the context of the state of hope that I think was very well captured by Desiree. She showed us graphically how we have linked with each other, which is really important. I thought Hina made a very good point at the beginning when she made it very clear that we're not just talking about access to legal justice, but to social justice. And that has come through. Many have referred to, obviously, to collaboration as being extraordinarily important. The need for much more disaggregated data, particularly for those marginalized, for those on the edges who tend to be overlooked. Not taking for granted that all people, especially young people and marginalized groups, know how to approach and access justice. And if we're not collaborating, progress won't be made. And I like the sentence that we all need to be translators for our own justice systems. And this means learning from each other, but also looking to innovate beyond traditional borders, and looking geographically, but looking socially. And I wanted to come back to hope. I learned a very important lesson from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, because we were on a panel together and he was being accused of being an optimist. And he said, oh no, I'm not an optimist. I'm a prisoner of hope. And I've thought a lot about that, a prisoner of hope, because hope gives you energy. It gives you the capacity to really want to make change. I want to build on everything that Micah was saying about the many points that we have to keep in mind. And Hina and myself will be at the World Justice Forum in The Hague, of course, and we want to go on with this collaboration that has been so important with you and your colleagues. But the hope is to actually see that there is a little that we can do, action locally, collaboration locally, steps that we can take. There's always something to build on forward, and collaboration accelerates that. A point was made about COVID, that we can communicate better now in a hybrid way because of COVID, like we're doing now. And we can bring people together more. We must build on that, but also the bad side of COVID. We had a chance in our group to talk something about that. And I heard a lovely, a new way of thinking about girls from Ileana Pujols. She said, girls heal relationally and hurt relationally. So girls who've been trapped in COVID were hurting. And when they have come together, they find it harder to heal. They find it harder to relate. The mental health issues that we're underestimating, and these are all very important. So, there's been a lot of wisdom on this call, and I think that, idea of we all have a responsibility to be translators of our own justice systems and to be open to learning and innovating with others. I think we're a powerful group to do this. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Sorry about that. I've killed it. Okay. So back to you, Lisa.
Those were the bells of joy and justice, Mary, I think, telling us that it's time for all of us to take that, bottle up that perfume of joy and justice and love, the call that we had in our hearts and our heads. And I've just put in what's a modern day meeting without a call for a tweet out to the world. Next week is International Women's Day. I hope you all celebrate yourselves and the women and girls in your life. Please do make a call on social media. And very lastly, just to be human with one another through this technology, let's go off mute and we can, as we say goodbye, wave, and in your language, go ahead and say goodbye to each other. So thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.